The colony burned. Commander Dennis Parker watched in seething silence from the cloaked recon ship's bridge as Ventaxian energy beams scoured the surface of New Eden, obliterating the only home he'd ever known. 20,000 innocent lives snuffed out in minutes, civilian blood on the hands of the pitiless alien aggressors. Parker gripped the rail, knuckles white, face carved from stone. Righteous fury coursed through his veins. The Ventaxian Empire had finally crossed the line, attacking an unarmed colony, slaughtering families. There could be no forgiveness, no mercy, only vengeance, served cold and raw across the stars. They thought New Eden stood alone, a backwater outpost, ripe for destruction to cow the human race into submission. But the Ventaxians had sowed the wind, and now they would reap the whirlwind. For New Eden was merely the tip of the spear, one of many secret forward operating bases strategically established across the galaxy, purpose-built anchorages for the hidden fleet. Constructed in the shadows of a tenuous truce, this clandestine armada wielded the most lethal technologies human science could devise, experimental weapons capable of cracking a planet's crust or scouring continents with fire. Crewed by Earth's finest warriors, honed to a razor's edge and hungry for battle. The hidden fleet was humanity's trump card. And now, the call to war echoed through subspace. No longer would mankind cower in the darkness. The time had come to remind the galaxy why we should be feared. As reports of the attack spread, Hidden Fleet Command delivered an uncompromising directive. All ships to battle stations. Prepare for righteous retribution. The Ventaxian Empire would pay in blood for their arrogance. Humanity would carve its fury across the stars, one shattered alien fleet at a time. Commander Parker squared his shoulders as he received his orders. Rendezvous with the main battle group to spearhead the assault. He smiled a hard, cold smile. The Ventaxian dogs had no idea what hell they had unleashed. The UES Retribution dropped out of hyperspace at the secret rendezvous coordinates, where the massed forces of the hidden fleet hung in the void like avenging angels poised to strike. Commander Parker felt a surge of pride at the sight. Sleek battle cruisers, agile destroyers, and deadly assault carriers, all filled with the most advanced weaponry human ingenuity could forge. A fitting hammer to smash the Ventaxian Empire's arrogance. Parker strode onto the bridge of the Retribution, his boots ringing on the deck. The crew snapped to attention, their faces grim and determined. They knew the stakes, the bitter taste of loss still fresh on their tongues. Every man and woman aboard had lost someone to the Ventaxians' cruelty. Now they hungered for payback. Commander Parker, a clipped voice crackled over the comm. Report to the Dauntless for briefing. Admiral Prescott wishes to speak with you. Immediately. Minutes later, Parker stood erect and rigid before the stern visage of Admiral Amelia Prescott, Supreme Commander of the Hidden Fleet. Her piercing gaze seemed to strip away all pretense, laying bare the fire that smoldered within him. The Ventaxians have pushed us too far, Prescott said, her voice hard and steel. It's time we push back. Intelligence has located a high-value target, a labor camp on Zorgox 5. Our scans show it holds human prisoners, civilians from raided colonies, military personnel, scientists. She fixed Parker with a penetrating stare. Your mission is twofold. Liberate the prisoners and uncover any intel on Ventaxian plans. We've detected unusual energy readings near the camp, possibly a research site. I want boots on the ground. Find out what the hell they're doing to our people. Parker nodded curtly. Consider it done, Admiral. The Hidden Fleet sliced through hyperspace, a sword aimed at the heart of Zorgox 5. As they approached the target, the unusual energy readings persisted into an ominous shape, a fortified research facility adjacent to the labor camp, seething with unknown technology. Biological signatures spiked, twisted, and alien. Definitely not Ventaxian. Admiral Prescott's face darkened. Commander, I don't like the look of this. Change of plans. We'll hit them on two fronts. Assault teams will secure the labor camp and free the prisoners as planned. Meanwhile, I want you to personally lead a strike on that research facility. Get in there, find out what they're hiding, and if you can, make them bleed. Dropships screamed through the atmosphere, disgorging armed Marines into the hell of Zorgox 5. At the labor camp, Captain Sarah Denham led a brutal assault, Ventaxian guards falling like chaff before a ruthless scythe. Squalid cages disgorged emaciated humans, blinking in the sudden light of freedom. Among them, a haggard man in the tattered remnants of a science uniform, Dr. Ethan Roth, xenobiologist. "The Ventaxians," he rasped through cracked lips. "They're experimenting on us, trying to unlock hidden abilities, psionic powers." He shuddered. The research facility, that's where the real nightmares live. Across the compound, Parker and his team sliced into the heart of darkness. Ventaxian resistance crumbled beneath a relentless onslaught as they smashed into the laboratories, a scene from the depths of hell. Humans wired into alien machines, bodies and minds twisted by unspeakable experiments. At the center, an ancient relic pulsed with eldritch energy, the puppet master orchestrating this carnival of horrors. As Parker reached for the artifact, a behemoth rose to oppose him. Caraxus, a Ventaxian enforcer, built like a tank and twice as mean. They clashed in a titanic struggle, human fury pitted against alien brutality, until Parker landed a final, crushing blow. Caraxus crumpled, his lifeblood staining the lab floor crimson. The prisoners secure, the research site neutralized, the hidden fleet fled Zorgox 5, New Eden's stolen children liberated from the Ventaxians' cruel grasp. But even as the ships launched for friendly space, a darker revelation took form. Decrypted data, pried from enemy computers, laid bare a chilling truth. The artifact was more than a mere relic. It was the key to unlocking psionic potential in the Ventaxians, a weapon to enslave the galaxy. And worse, the data hinted that it may have already shaped humanity's development. Our greatest defense against the Ventaxians, Dr. Roth hypothesized, may flow through our very veins. As stars streaked past the viewports, Commander Parker stared into the void, Admiral Prescott and Dr. Roth at his side. The Battle of Zorgox 5 was won, but the war, he knew with a grim certainty, had only just begun. Commander Parker stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of their next target, the Ventaxian Communications Hub on Calaraxis. The jungle moon hung in space like a mottled green pearl, its surface obscured by swirling clouds and dense foliage. "Impressive defenses," Parker muttered, zooming in on the fortified installation. "This won't be easy." Admiral Prescott's voice crackled over the comm. "It needs to be done, Commander. We need to buy time to unlock the secrets of that artifact." Parker nodded grimly. He'd handpicked his team for this mission, and now he gathered them in the briefing room. Sergeant Zahn Vex, a shadow-given form, leaned against the wall, his eyes constantly scanning the room. Lieutenant Mira Kess pored over alien language matrices on her datapad, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Our objective is simple," Parker began, activating a 3D model of the communications hub. "We infiltrate, upload a virus, and exfiltrate. The fleet will launch a diversionary attack to draw away their forces." Vex's voice was sandpaper rough. "What's our insertion method?" "High-altitude drop," Parker replied. "We'll use stealth pods to slip past their sensors." Kess looked up from her datapad. "I've made progress on their encryption. Once inside, I should be able to access their systems." The plan set, they moved to the launch bay. As Parker strapped into his pod, he caught a glimpse of the fleet preparing for battle. A knot formed in his stomach. Not fear, but anticipation. The drop was a controlled freefall through Calraxis's turbulent atmosphere. They landed in a clearing, the dense jungle closing around them like a fist. Vex took point, his movements fluid and silent as he led them through the underbrush. Alien birds screeched overhead. Something large crashed through the foliage nearby. Parker raised a hand, halting the team. A massive, six-legged predator lumbered past, its scales glinting in the dappled sunlight. They held their breath until it passed. As they neared the communications hub, Ventaxian patrols became more frequent. Vex dispatched them with terrifying efficiency, leaving no trace of their passage. Finally, they reached the outer perimeter. Kess worked her magic on the security systems, and they slipped inside. The hub's interior was a maze of pulsing conduits and alien technology. They made their way to the central core, where Kess began uploading the virus. A high-pitched whine filled the air. Blast doors slammed shut. Turrets emerged from hidden compartments. "It's a trap!" Parker shouted, diving for cover as energy bolts scorched the air. They fought desperately, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Vex turned to Parker, his eyes glinting with drive. "Get the lieutenant out of here," he growled. "I'll hold them off." Before Parker could protest, Vex was gone, charging into the oncoming Ventaxian forces. The sounds of battle echoed through the corridors as Parker and Kess finished uploading the virus and fought their way to the extraction point. As their shuttle lifted off, the communications hub collapsed in on itself, rocked by explosions. Parker watched grimly, honoring Vex's sacrifice. Back aboard the Retribution, there was no time to celebrate. Alarms blared as Ventaxian ships surrounded the fleet. On the main view screen, a wave of sickly purple energy rippled out from an enemy vessel. "Psionic attack!" someone shouted. Several human ships listed in space, their crews incapacitated. Admiral Prescott's face appeared on the comm, her expression grim. "All ships, battle stations. This is the moment we've trained for." As enemy vessels closed in, Parker gripped the arms of his command chair. The real test was only beginning. The Ventaxian ships surged forward, their hulls gleaming with an eerie purple light. Commander Parker's eyes widened as he realized the true nature of the threat. "Psionic attack incoming," he shouted, but it was too late. A wave of sickly energy washed over the hidden fleet. On the bridge of the Retribution, crew members clutched their heads and screamed. Lieutenant Kess collapsed, her eyes rolling back. Parker felt his own mind assaulted by alien thoughts and sensations, threatening to overwhelm him. Through the haze of pain, he saw other human ships listing in space, their crews incapacitated. The Ventaxian warships closed in like circling sharks, weapons primed. Admiral Prescott's face appeared on the main view screen, her fists tight with perseverance. "All ships, initiate emergency protocols. Parker, get to the command center. We need a counter-strategy now." Fighting against the psionic assault, Parker stumbled to the ship's secure command center. He found Prescott there, along with other senior officers who had managed to resist the worst of the mental attack. "It's the artifact," Dr. Roth gasped, sweat beading on his forehead. "They've weaponized it somehow." Prescott's eyes narrowed. "Then we need to find a way to neutralize it. Lieutenant Kess!" The young officer staggered into the room, her face pale but resolute. "Yes, Admiral?" "Analyze the artifact's energy signature. Look for any weaknesses we can exploit." As Kess set to work, Prescott turned to Parker. "Commander, I need you to lead boarding parties. Capture their officers. We need intel on how they're controlling that damn thing." Parker nodded, pushing aside the lingering effects of the psionic attack. He assembled a strike team, including the hardened Marines led by Captain Sarah Denham. They launched in stealth shuttles, exploiting gaps in the Ventaxian formation. Boarding the alien ships was hell. Ventaxian defenders fought with cybernetically enhanced reflexes, their weapons spitting plasma bolts that melted through armor. But the humans pressed on, driven by desperation and rage. In the bowels of a Ventaxian cruiser, Parker cornered a high-ranking officer. The alien sneered, mandibles clicking. "You cannot stop what is coming, human." Parker slammed the Ventaxian against a bulkhead. "How do we shut down the artifact?" The alien's compound eyes gleamed. "The Overlord's will cannot be denied. The galaxy will kneel before—" A precision shot from Denham's rifle silenced the Ventaxian permanently. "We don't have time for speeches," she growled. They extracted what intel they could from the ship's computers before fighting their way back to their shuttle. As they docked with the Retribution, Kess's voice crackled over the comms. "Commander, I've found something. There's a narrow band of frequencies that could overload the artifact's projectors." Prescott's voice cut in. "All ships, this is the Admiral. Prepare for Operation Mindbreaker. Kess, transmit those frequencies to the fleet. Everyone else, target the Ventaxian flagship. We're taking that artifact out of play." The hidden fleet's remaining warships surged forward, their weapons blazing. Energy beams lanced out, striking the Ventaxian vessels with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions blossomed in the void as ships on both sides were torn apart. Through it all, the Retribution and her sister ships pounded the enemy flagship. Its shields flickered and failed under the relentless assault. A final salvo breached its hull, and for a moment, the psionic attacks ceased. "Now's our chance," Prescott shouted. "Parker, take a team and secure that artifact." Parker led a squad of commandos in a desperate charge through the ruptured Ventaxian ship. They fought through waves of defenders, the corridors slick with blood, both human and alien. They reached the artifact chamber, a cavernous space dominated by the pulsing relic. But before they could claim their prize, a massive figure stepped from the shadows. Caraxus, the Ventaxian enforcer Parker had faced on Zorgox 5, now stood between them and victory. "You will not take what is ours," the behemoth rumbled, cybernetic enhancements gleaming on its battle-scarred hide. What followed was a brutal melee. Parker and his team fought with everything they had, but Caraxus seemed unstoppable. The alien's augmented strength sent humans flying with each blow. Parker, battered and bleeding, saw an opening. He charged, ducking under Caraxus's guard to drive his combat knife into a weak point in the cyborg's armor. The blade found something vital, and Caraxus roared in pain and fury. They grappled, teetering on the edge of a precipice overlooking the artifact's power core. With a final, desperate heave, Parker sent them both over the edge. They plummeted, trading blows even as they fell. Parker slammed into a conduit, agony lancing through his body, but Caraxus kept falling, disappearing into the pulsing energy field below. The alien's final roar was cut short by a flash of light and a thunderous explosion. Dazed and gravely wounded, Parker dragged himself back to his team. Dr. Roth had arrived and was already working to disconnect the artifact from its power source. "We need to move," Denham shouted, firing at approaching Ventaxian troops. "Reinforcements are coming." With the last of his strength, Parker helped secure the artifact. They retreated to their shuttle, fighting a running battle through disintegrating corridors. As they docked with the Retribution, Parker saw Admiral Prescott on the bridge, coordinating the fleet's desperate escape. Her uniform was stained with blood, her face a mask of pain and commitment. "All ships, make the jump to emergency coordinates," she ordered. "We have the artifact. I repeat, we have—" Her words were cut off as a stray energy bolt lanced through the bridge. Prescott crumpled, her eyes meeting Parker's for one final moment before the ship lurched into hyperspace. The battle was over. The artifact was theirs. But as Parker looked at the shattered remains of the hidden fleet, he knew the cost had been unimaginably high. In the medical bay, as doctors fought to save his life, Parker heard Prescott's final words, delivered by her XO. "The artifact is in our hands," she had said, "but its power remains an enigma. It could corrupt even the noblest intentions. Parker, I name you Supreme Commander. Guard humanity, both from our enemies and from ourselves." As consciousness faded, Parker felt the weight of command settle upon him. The war had entered a new phase, and he would be the one to lead humanity through the fire. Parker's eyes snapped open, the sterile white of the medical bay coming into focus. His body ached, a reminder of the brutal battle aboard the Ventaxian flagship. A figure moved beside him, Dr. Roth, his face haggard, but eyes bright with excitement. "Commander, you're awake. We've made landfall on Arcadia." Parker sat up, wincing. "The artifact?" "Secure. We've established a research facility in an abandoned mine complex. It's well hidden and shielded from prying eyes." As soon as he was cleared by medical, Parker made his way to the newly christened Arcadia base. The facility buzzed with activity, a stark contrast to the desolate, windswept surface above. Scientists and technicians swarmed around the artifact, which pulsed with an otherworldly glow at the center of a reinforced chamber. Lieutenant Kess intercepted him, datapad in hand. "Commander, you need to see this." She led him to a holographic display where a three-dimensional model of the artifact rotated slowly. "We've carbon-dated it using the most advanced techniques available. The results are impossible." "How old?" Parker asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Over 1 billion years, sir. And its composition. There are elements here we can't even name." Parker's mind reeled. The implications were staggering. Before he could fully process the information, an alarm blared. Kess's fingers flew across her datapad. "Sir, we've detected an energy spike. The artifact is activating." They rushed to the containment chamber. The artifact's glow had intensified, and strange symbols flickered across its surface. "It's some kind of code," Kess breathed. Her eyes widened. "Wait, I think I can—" "Yes, I'm breaking through the encryption." Hours passed as Kess worked feverishly, decoding the alien language. Finally, she looked up, her face pale. "Commander, it's a star chart. Coordinates to a location in uncharted space." Parker studied the holographic map, a cold certainty settling in his gut. That's where it came from, where it was built. The decision was made. A stealth task force was assembled, with Parker at its head. They slipped away from Arcadia, following the artifact's cosmic breadcrumbs into the unknown. After weeks of tense travel, they emerged in a system dominated by a dying red giant. On the outermost planet, sensors detected the remnants of an ancient civilization. The landing party touched down in the midst of crumbling alien spires. Dust swirled around their boots as they made their way through the ghostly ruins. At the city's heart stood a massive structure, its architecture defying human understanding. Inside, they found a vast chamber filled with alien machinery. On one wall, a massive pictograph depicted a terrifying scene. Entire worlds consumed by a wave of energy emanating from a familiar shape. "My God," Dr. Roth whispered. "It's not just a power source. It's a weapon, a planet killer." Before they could fully grasp the implications, alarms blared. Parker's comm crackled to life. "Commander, Ventaxian ships, dozens of them. They've tracked us here." Parker's blood ran cold. They'd walked into a trap. "All forces, battle stations, protect the landing party at all costs." As they raced back to their ships, the sky lit up with weapons fire. The depleted human fleet fought desperately against the Ventaxian armada. On the bridge of his flagship, Parker barked orders, coordinating a fighting retreat. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "we've detected a transmission from the surface. It's the ruins. They're transmitting data directly to our systems." Understanding dawned on Parker. This was their chance, perhaps their only chance, to uncover the artifact's secrets. "Keep that transmission going as long as you can. We hold the line here." The battle raged, a desperate struggle for survival. Ships on both sides erupted in silent explosions, their crews consigned to the void. But even as his forces took heavy losses, Parker refused to withdraw until the data transfer was complete. Finally, the tactical officer shouted, "Download complete, sir!" "All ships, emergency jump now." As they fled into hyperspace, Parker knew the weight of what they'd discovered would change everything. The artifact was no mere tool or energy source. It was a doomsday device, capable of exterminating all life in the galaxy. In the quiet of his quarters, Parker faced the most momentous decision of his life. They now possessed the key to ultimate power and ultimate destruction. With it, they could bring the Ventaxian Empire to its knees. But at what cost? Parker's fists clenched as he stared at the artifact's schematics. They would use it, he decided. They would end the Ventaxian threat once and for all. But after that, they would ensure no one could ever wield such terrible power again. As the remnants of the hidden fleet regrouped, Parker prepared to address his battered forces. The final confrontation with the Ventaxian armada loomed, and beyond that, a future fraught with peril and possibility. The hope of the universe now rested in their hands. Commander Parker stood before the artifact, its pulsing energy casting eerie shadows across the chamber. The weight of his decision pressed down on him, but there was no turning back now. He keyed his comm link. "Lieutenant Kess, initiate Operation Reckoning." "Aye, sir," came the terse reply. Parker boarded his stealth frigate, leading a small flotilla into the heart of enemy territory. As they slipped past Ventaxian sensor arrays, he felt a cold sweat form on his brow. One mistake, one errant energy signature, and they'd be swarmed by the Empire's forces. Hours of tense silence passed before Kess's voice crackled over the comm. "Commander, we've breached their comm networks. transmitting false distress signals now. On the main view screen, Parker watched as the fabricated messages spread through Ventaxian channels. Desperate pleas for aid, reports of human fleets massing for an assault, all carefully crafted lies designed to draw their enemy into a trap. The response was swift. Ventaxian warships, hundreds of them, began pouring into the Garaxis system. At their head, the massive dreadnought of Overlord Merrick himself. "All ships prepare for engagement," Parker ordered, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. "Remember, we need to funnel them into the target zone." The battle erupted in a fury of plasma fire and missile salvos. Parker's small force darted between the hulking Ventaxian ships, their stealth systems allowing them to strike and fade before the enemy could lock on. From the bridge of his frigate, Parker coordinated the desperate dance of ships. Every feint, every calculated retreat was designed to draw the Ventaxians deeper into the kill zone. "Sir," a sensor operator called out, "enemy concentration has reached critical mass. We're at optimum firing position for the artifact." Parker took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide the fate of humanity. "Lieutenant Kess, you have weapons release authorization. Fire when ready." Across the vastness of space, on a hidden world light-years away, Kess's fingers flew over the artifact's control interface. Energy readings spiked, reality itself seeming to warp around the ancient weapon. A blinding beam of pure destruction lanced out, tearing through the fabric of space-time. It struck the heart of the Ventaxian formation with the force of a supernova. Ships disintegrated, their hulls peeling away like dead leaves in a hurricane. The beam continued on, boring into the planet-sized military hub of Garaxis. Entire continents vanished in an instant, replaced by a maelstrom of uncontrolled energy. On his view screen, Parker watched as Overlord Merrick's flagship was caught in the edge of the vortex. The massive ship, pride of the Ventaxian fleet, crumpled without difficulty before being swallowed by the cosmic inferno. As quickly as it began, it was over. Where once there had been a mighty armada and an impregnable fortress, now there was only a graveyard of twisted metal and ionized gas. Parker sagged in his command chair, the magnitude of what they'd done crashing over him. Billions of lives snuffed out in an instant, the Ventaxian threat neutralized, but at a cost that staggered the imagination. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, voice shaking, "we're detecting widespread communications failures across Ventaxian space. Their command structure is collapsing." Parker nodded grimly. "Signal the fleet. We need to move quickly to establish a defensive perimeter while the enemy is in disarray." As his ships regrouped and began their push into former Ventaxian territory, Parker couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was just the beginning of an even greater challenge. They had saved humanity from alien domination, but now they faced the daunting task of securing peace in a shattered galaxy. And always in the back of his mind loomed the specter of the artifact, a weapon of unimaginable power, now in human hands. Parker knew that safeguarding it and deciding its ultimate fate would be the greatest test of all. Parker stood at the viewport of his command ship, watching as the remnants of the Ventaxian fleet scattered like cosmic dust. He turned to Admiral Malik, his newly promoted second-in-command. "Initiate Operation Phalanx," Parker ordered. "We need to secure key systems before the power vacuum destabilizes the entire sector." Malik nodded, her eyes gleaming. "I'll lead the task force personally. We'll start with the Nyx shipyards." As Malik's fleet jumped to hyperspace, Parker received an urgent communique from Lieutenant Kess on Draxus 4. "Commander, I've made contact with a Ventaxian rebel cell," Kess reported, her hologram flickering. "Their leader, Taylor, has offered us critical intelligence in exchange for sanctuary." Parker leaned forward, intrigued. "What kind of intelligence?" "Locations of secret supply depots, sir. Enough resources to fuel our expansion for years." "Set up a secure meeting. I want to speak with this Taylor myself." Days later, Parker stood face-to-face with the Ventaxian rebel leader. Taylor's scaled skin shimmered in the dim light of the makeshift command center. "My people have suffered under Merrick's tyranny for generations," Taylor said, her voice a low hiss. We offer you the means to dismantle what remains of his empire. In return, we ask for a place in your new order." Parker studied her, weighing the implications. Finally, he extended his hand. "We have a deal." As Operation Phalanx unfolded across former Ventaxian space, Parker received troubling news from Arcadia. Dr. Roth's hologram appeared, his face ashen. "Commander, we've made a terrifying discovery about the artifact," Roth said. "If overloaded, it could create an energy shockwave capable of fracturing spacetime itself. The resulting feedback loop could render entire sectors uninhabitable." Parker's blood ran cold. He immediately convened an emergency council with his senior officers. Admiral Malik's hologram flickered to life. "This is an opportunity, sir. With this kind of firepower, we could force the remaining alien powers to submit without firing a shot." Captain Denham vehemently disagreed. "And become the very monsters we fought to destroy? We can't stoop to their level." The debate raged on until a quiet voice cut through the chaos. Sergeant Caleb Marr, once a brash young Marine, now spoke with the weight of hard-earned wisdom. "We dismantle it publicly," Marr proposed, "but we keep the essential components, a deterrent without the appearance of a threat." Parker nodded slowly, seeing the logic in Marr's plan. "Make it happen, Doctor," he ordered Roth. "And Sergeant Marr, you'll oversee the operation personally." As weeks passed, reports of the artifact's destruction spread across human space. Parker addressed the colonies, proclaiming an end to the threat of galaxy-wide destruction. Behind the scenes, however, key components were quietly secreted away to hidden facilities. But even as humanity's influence grew, unsettling whispers reached Parker's ears. Reports of increased aggression among frontier troops, of paranoia spreading through isolated colonies. Lieutenant Kess brought him the latest dispatches, her brow furrowed with concern. "Sir, these incidents are becoming more frequent. Do you think—" Parker cut her off. "Combat fatigue, nothing more. We've all been through hell, Kess. It'll pass." But as he dismissed her, Parker couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they had set something in motion that they didn't fully understand. He turned back to the viewport, watching the stars streak by, and wondered what price they would ultimately pay for their victory. Commander Parker stood before the assembled dignitaries, his voice carrying across the grand chamber. "Today, we forge a new path. The Unity Accords will unite our worlds under a single banner of cooperation and mutual defense." As the applause died down, Parker caught sight of Ambassador Kess conferring with Taylor, the Ventaxian rebel leader. The sight of human and alien working side by side filled him with a cautious optimism. That optimism was short-lived. "Commander, a word." Admiral Malik's stern voice cut through the celebratory atmosphere. She led Parker to a quiet alcove, her face a mask of nearly unleashed fury. "You can't seriously be considering this joint exercise with the Draxine." Parker sighed. "It's Sergeant Marr's proposal, a show of unity to ease tensions between us and the very aliens who tried to exterminate us," Malik hissed. "It's madness." Before Parker could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Kess's voice crackled over the comm system, panic evident in her tone. "Commander, we have a situation in Sector 7. Parker sprinted to the command center, Malik hot on his heels. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a Draxine cadet ship veering wildly off course. "What the hell?" Parker muttered. Kess's fingers flew over her console. "Sir, they've entered a restricted zone. Oh God, it's where we stored the artifact components." Time seemed to slow as Parker watched the unthinkable unfold. A blinding flash erupted from the restricted zone, followed by an ever-expanding tear in the very fabric of spacetime. "Get me Dr. Roth," Parker barked. The scientist's hologram materialized, his face ashen. "Commander, it's worse than we could have imagined. The artifact's fail-safes. They didn't account for this. It's creating a self-sustaining singularity." Parker watched in horror as entire star systems were swallowed by the cosmic maelstrom. "How do we stop it?" Roth's voice was barely a whisper. "We can't!" The next hours were a blur of frantic activity. Parker ordered the evacuation of all human territories, but reports flooded in of stranded colonies, their escape routes cut off by the expanding rift. In the midst of the chaos, Dr. Roth approached with a wild look in his eyes. "Commander, I have an idea. It's insane, but it might be our only chance." As Roth outlined his desperate plan, Parker felt the weight of billions of lives on his shoulders. It all came down to one final, impossible gambit. "Who do we send?" Parker asked, knowing the mission was almost certainly a death sentence. A quiet voice answered from behind him. "I'll do it." Parker turned to see Sergeant Caleb Marr, the man who had proposed the ill-fated joint exercise. There was a haunted look in the Marine's eyes, but his voice was steady. "No," Parker began, but Marr cut him off. "With all due respect, sir, this is my responsibility. I'll lead the team." As Marr's strike force prepared to board the reactivated artifact, Parker gripped the Marine's shoulder. "Good luck, Sergeant. The fate of humanity and all alien species rests in your hands." Marr nodded grimly, then turned and strode toward his waiting ship. Parker watched him go, unable to shake the feeling that he was sending the man to his death. The artifact loomed before them, pulsing with malevolent energy. As Marr's team fought their way through the Ventaxian cultists who had claimed the relic as their dark god, Parker could only watch and wait. Suddenly, Kess's voice rang out. "Sir, the artifact? It's collapsing in on itself." Parker's heart leapt. Had they succeeded? But then he saw it, a shimmering portal opening in the wake of the artifact's implosion. "My God," Malik breathed, "what have they done?" As the truth of Marr's plan became clear, Parker watched in awe as billions of stranded civilians poured through the artificial wormhole. The Marine sacrifice had given them a chance at survival. Hours later, as the last refugees stumbled to safety, the singularity collapsed with a final, silent flash. Parker stood at the viewport, staring at the scarred remnants of what had once been thriving star systems. The galaxy would never be the same, but as Parker turned to face the daunting task of rebuilding, he knew that humanity and their newfound allies had been given a second chance. A chance to forge a future free from the specter of ultimate destruction. 5 years after the cataclysmic battle, Commander Parker stood at the helm of the Galactic Concord's flagship, the Unity. His eyes scanned the holographic display of known space, a tapestry of human and alien worlds linked by the fragile threads of diplomacy and shared interests. "Commander," Lieutenant Kess's voice crackled over the comm, "we've lost contact with Outpost Sigma-7. Parker's eyebrows furrowed. It was the third such incident this month. "Any signs of attack?" "Negative, sir. It's as if they've gone dark voluntarily." A cold dread settled in Parker's stomach. He'd seen this pattern before, in the early days of the Ventaxian conflict, but this time the threat came from within. "Set course for Sigma-7, Parker ordered, "and get me a secure line to Dr. Roth." As the Unity dropped out of hyperspace near the outpost, Parker's worst fears were confirmed. The station's defense grid powered up, targeting his ship. "Evasive maneuvers," Parker barked. The Unity banked hard, narrowly avoiding a barrage of plasma fire. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting a transmission from the surface. It's Admiral Malik." The view screen flickered to life, revealing Malik's stern visage. Her eyes burned with a fanatical gleam that sent a chill down Parker's spine. "Parker," Malik sneered, "I see you've come to witness the dawn of a new era." "Stand down, Admiral," Parker warned. "Whatever you're planning—" "Planning?" Malik laughed. "We're done planning. The human primacy rises today." The screen split, showing footage from across human space. Colonies in open revolt. Concord ships turning on their allies. Chaos spreading like wildfire. "You squandered our victory," Malik continued, "but we will right your wrongs. Humanity will claim its rightful place among the stars." As Malik's tirade continued, Parker received an urgent message from Dr. Roth. The scientist's face was ashen as he delivered the news. "Commander, we've detected energy signatures consistent with the artifact. They've rebuilt it." Parker's blood ran cold. He turned back to Malik's image, seeing her with new eyes. This wasn't just a military coup. It was the resurrection of a nightmare he'd thought long buried. "You don't know what you're dealing with," Parker warned. Malik's smile was cold and predatory. "Oh, but we do. And this time, we won't make the mistake of holding back." The transmission cut off abruptly. Moments later, a massive energy surge erupted from the planet's surface. Parker watched in horror as a nearby star system vanished in a flash of impossible light. "All ships, battle stations," Parker ordered, his mind racing. "And get me every allied world on subspace. We're at war." As the Unity prepared for the fight of its life, Parker knew the real battle had only just begun. The specter of ultimate power once again loomed over the galaxy, and this time, it wore a human face. Parker's fist clenched as he watched another star system vanish in a flash of impossible light. The Unity shuddered under a barrage of fire from the planet's surface. "Evasive pattern Delta," he barked. "Get us out of range." As the ship lurched away from the onslaught, Parker's mind raced. This wasn't just an insurrection, it was the resurrection of humanity's darkest hour. "Sir?" Lieutenant Kess's voice cut through the chaos. "We're receiving distress calls from across human space. Colonies in revolt, Concord ships turning on allies." Parker's eyes narrowed. "It's coordinated. Malik's been planning this for years." He turned to his communications officer. "Get me a secure channel to every allied world. Now." As the Unity limped to a safe distance, Parker addressed the assembled leaders of the Galactic Concord. Alien faces mixed with human ones on the display, all bearing expressions of shock and fear. "We face a threat unlike any we've encountered," Parker said, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his gut. "Admiral Malik has rebuilt the artifact. The human primacy seeks to claim dominion over all life in the galaxy." A Draxian ambassador hissed in alarm. "Impossible! The artifact was destroyed." "Apparently not thoroughly enough," Parker replied grimly. "We need to pool our resources, coordinate our defenses." His words were cut short as another explosion rocked the ship. Alarms blared throughout the Unity. "Multiple bogies incoming," Kess shouted. "Concord IFF, but they're not responding to hails." Parker's heart sank as he recognized the lead vessel. "It's the Dauntless, Captain Hale's ship." The comm crackled to life, and Hale's face appeared on screen. Her eyes gleamed with a fanatical light that sent chills down Parker's spine. "Stand down, Parker," Hale sneered. "Your time is over. The future belongs to the human primacy." Parker's mind raced, searching for a solution. Direct confrontation would only lead to more bloodshed. He needed a way to shatter this insurrection from within. As if reading his thoughts, Sergeant Caleb Marr stepped forward. "Commander," he said quietly, "I have an idea." Parker listened as Marr outlined his audacious plan. It was risky, perhaps even suicidal, but it might be their only chance. "Do it," Parker ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of command. "But Caleb, come back alive." Marr nodded grimly and strode from the bridge. As he watched the young officer go, Parker couldn't shake the feeling that he was sending one of his best into the lion's den. The Unity rocked under another barrage from Hale's ships. Parker turned back to the view screen, his heart made. "All ships, defensive formation," he ordered. "We hold the line here. For the sake of every sentient being in this galaxy, we cannot let the human primacy succeed." As the battle raged around them, Parker's mind was already racing ahead, plotting the next moves in this deadly game of galactic chess. The human primacy had made their opening gambit. Now it was time for the Concord to strike back.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.